Hey, hi. Welcome to Someone Else's Movie, the original podcast where an actor, writer, director, or nebulous industry figure gives a little love to a movie they didn't make. I'm Norm Wilner, senior film writer for Now Magazine, and this is the other thing I do. My guest this week is Lina Roessler, who you might have seen as an actor in Lost Girl, The Ninth Life of Louis Drax, or Murdoch Mysteries, or some other things. And she's also a filmmaker, having made the short films Little Whispers, The Vow, Winter, and Mustard Seed over the last decade. Her first feature, Bestsellers, stars Aubrey Plaza as a young woman trying to save her father's publishing house, and Michael Caine as the literary lion who might be able to help her out with that if she can just get him to behave. It's in theaters and on VOD in Canada this Friday, September 17th, and you should check it out. Lina picked Border, Ali Abbasi's 2018 adaptation of the short story by John Ajvide Lindqvist, starring Eva Melander as an odd woman named Tina, who works as a Swedish border guard, making sure people don't smuggle anything forbidden into the country. She's very good at it, and one day she meets a strange man, played by Eva Melander, who knows why. And that's when things get really interesting. If you haven't already figured this out, you're going to want to watch Border before you listen to this episode. It's like The Matrix, you need to see it to understand it. This is Someone Else's Movie.
Well, yeah, I'm curious what you think about this film too. I guess I was looking at, I've listened to your podcast, I've heard other people talk about their choices, and of course some choices were already chosen. So, and then I don't know. I was recently in Sweden. I am Swedish. My mom is Swedish. My family's Swedish, and so there's like a long history of sort of folklore and this kind of traditional storytelling that it just I guess I was just reminded of this film, and I also think I never got to talk to anybody about it when it came out because, and I realized that too because I saw it at TIFF, and then it's like you really wanted to talk about it, but you couldn't because you didn't want to give anything away, and so then I realized it's like, oh my god, I never spoke to anybody about it. So I thought, oh, well, now's my chance. We can finally unfurl this weird knot of a story of a film.
Yeah.
But it had been a long time as well since I'd watched it. And then I thought, okay, I better do some homework. So I watched it again this week. And then I was thinking, I was like, oh God, I've made you watch it again this week. Maybe, I don't know. But watching it again was also strange because the first time was almost like a joy. It was like I just remember feeling, actually it wasn't joyful. It was sort of this grotesque kind of strange, but I left feeling astonished, I think was the right word to use. Cause you sort of left the theater feeling like, wait, what just happened? What was that? And what did I just experience? What was that? And because I never got to really talk about it, I thought, well, I'm going to ask you what you thought about it.
I'm delighted you picked it because I have never seen this film with an audience. They sent us, it was TIFF, right? So what happens at TIFF is you get a bunch of links early on, or I mean, it used to be that there would be 3 to 7 press screenings a day for the last 2 weeks of August. Like my birthday is August 16th, and I've learned to hate it because it's the end of my life. Because no matter what, the next 3 to 4 weeks are, I don't see anybody. I don't talk. I mean, I see other critics. I don't see my family. I don't see my friends. Everybody knows. And I've been doing this long enough that everybody just knows now that this is what happens to me. I go away for a month. And Border was, I think, 2018. And we were just starting to tip over into streaming links being available for the international films from sales agents and things. And so we got to watch it here. And Kate and I watched it together. There was this weird queasy tension for the entire experience because you know something's off, but you can't tell what it is. And then I would have given anything to be in a theater for the sex scene because how the hell did that play?
It was crazy. Everybody, it was an audible, like the gasp, it was collective kind of, astonishment, like surprise. And some people, I think there was like some like a muffled giggle or everybody, but it was palpable. It was just sort of like, what? It just, nobody, I don't know how to talk about it. Nobody it, without making sort of jokes about it. Almost.
Right. No, your brain wants to.
I know, because it was a definite surprise, like out of nowhere. And so that's obviously that was the scene that I guess everybody kind of remembers or thinks about. But the film itself, I'm watching it again. I mean, my God, it's so dark. It's, there's the background of her being this border control agent, and it's child pornography and trafficking and like all this really dark stuff in the human world. And I guess looking at it again, and I think why I also liked it, but beyond why it's so astonishing, it's rare to see something like that genuinely surprises you and is sort of effective and kind of makes you question your own reality. And so I think that was all great. And also with my own personal history of, growing up with trolls, for example, in Sweden, at least in storybooks. And but I think what was most interesting, or what was that rang true for me, was like this sort of, and what I if I bring it to my own, or at least short films, I was always looking at nature versus human, like the sort of ugliness of humans versus what could be this beautiful natural world. And in Border, those two worlds are put against each other, like this sort of nature versus reality, or I guess you could even say nurture. But what I liked about it was it showed how both are sort of disappointing, or could be. Like, who's to say this troll eating maggots, for example, is that really disgusting and grotesque, or are these people who are obviously embarking in child trafficking and I mean, that is disgusting, or and just pure evil and senseless and all these horrible things. So I thought it was really interesting how to put these two worlds up together and to watch them unfold, and to kind of make a pretty clear sort of, well, who are we to say what's worse or what's good or what's bad,
the way the film introduces us to Tina is kind of blunt, right? I mean, we're just watching this person who is clearly an actor in makeup, but it's so well done that you keep trying to figure out where the seams are and then where the person is, and then you stop thinking about it because it works. Like, the performance draws you in. But I was stunned when I looked her up afterwards and realized, like, there's almost none of her visible, just her eyes and maybe her jaw. Everything else is covered.
Yeah.
And it's a completely credible performance. Yeah. Because we can see her eyes, right? Like, we can still connect to her.
Yeah. And the acting is incredible. The emotion shows through the eyes. And as you say, through this mountain of prosthetics and makeup. But I think that I can't, I've been an actor in my life, and I just can't imagine these guys going the distance there. And I had to look, I read up on her this week, and she like put on all this weight. She was eating every 90 minutes or something to like put on all this muscle to be. So it is her body. It is her physical form, minus, this mask of the makeup. But all the little gestures, her like sniffing, like the animal kind of like her lip curls up just slightly when she, in this sort of, in a clear animal way, and she's almost tasting the smell. So all of that really works, but you feel like, oh God, you're watching something. And also for me, it's interesting to watch, and also just to examine your own preconceived notion, because what you're watching is kind of grotesque. You're just like, I'm not, and you're not, they're not like stereotypically attractive, individuals who are on the screen that you are used to seeing all the time, every day, on any show or film that you turn on. So so just to watch those people and to watch, and then like in this like love story, it also kind of it makes you wonder, like question yourself, like what all of your judgments that you just place automatically on people and things and like how things are. And it was interesting to how it really makes you uncomfortable with that, or like, well, why I'm judging this, and why am I judging it? And who am I to judge this? So
Yeah, my first time through, I was trying to figure out, is this exploitation? Am I
That's
watching
right.
people being taken advantage of by the filmmaker? And then, of course, it hits the beats that it hits. I'm still trying to protect it, which is amazing. I reread my review from the festival, and then the one I wrote, the longer one I wrote when it was released that fall. And I think it basically just wrote around literally everything and just said, don't even read this, just go see it. Because
I tried to find your review. I tried to find your review before we spoke, of course, but I only saw, I couldn't find a longer one. Now I'm intrigued. I'm gonna go find, but I do remember you saying, just don't even now as we're talking about it, I'm like, God, how do we talk about it?
You want to protect it, right?
Yeah.
Like you want to protect the experience for people.
Did you want to see it twice?
I did.
The second time was, I don't know, it's different. But how was it for you watching it again?
I didn't watch it this week, but I revisited it in 2020, maybe early 2020. It showed up on a streaming service somewhere, and I thought, you know what, I want to see how this plays a second time. And what I got out of it was the same thing, weirdly enough, the same thing I got out of Let the Right One In, which, of course, because it's from the same writer.
Yeah.
But I think Ali Abbasi, the director of this film, was kind of trying to do the same thing that Let the Right One In did, that the film adaptation did, which is not hide anything. Like all the reveals are in the dialogue. The both Border and Let the Right One In never pretend that these characters are anything other than what they are. And on second viewing, when you know who people are and what they are, it's just, there's no filter anymore. There's no, like, it removes any film is easier to watch the second time through because your brain isn't trying to figure out where it's going, and you're not, like, the suspense doesn't play the same way. But here, where the bigger mystery of the film isn't what's going on with the pornography ring and the thing that she's investigating, it's who she is and what she's doing. Right. And when you know that, it gets really interesting watching everything else respond to her. So,
right.
I found it really compelling, and I was going to say funny, but not quite funny, just a little uneasy. There's this tension with her, knowing that she's not happy, knowing that she doesn't belong where she is, and that she's trying to figure out what she really wants, and that this is someone who's never known what she wanted because she was removed from her world, and is just this, she's isolated in a world full of people. And watching everyone else kind of just pull away from her a tiny bit. And it's clearly directed. I mean, I'm sure it's designed to be that way, but everyone she speaks to steps back a tiny bit. There's a little bit of space that's created between her and everything else.
Yeah, I think it really is that. It's what it is. It's a character study. It's a self-discovery, almost like a coming of age, but a coming into one's own. And similarly to Let the Right One In, which is literally about two kids, developing, learning, and becoming, who they are meant to be, like their own selves. And that is what this is about. It's a personal journey. It's a story of somebody who, as you said, has been isolated in their own and in their own world, almost forced to be alone and never belonging, like the outsider story, I guess. Yeah. But as an acting piece, as that kind of character, what like, that's remarkable. I think what both of them did.
Yeah, I don't want to play down Eva Melander because he's incredible as well.
Yes,
just this
exactly.
Forceful, confident thing he's doing that reads as ugly to us because the camera pushes in on him, and we are repelled by his, or at least I was. I think the first time through, I thought I was supposed to be repelled by his desire, not just sexual, but for her to be part of his world, to pull her in. Because he wants to use her. We can talk about the ending and everything else, but that's the thing that really plays like a heartbreaker the second time through, is knowing that this is the first person like her that she's ever met. And he does not have good intentions. He tells her he wants to help her, but that's not really what he wants. And the second time through, it feels like it's almost like a film noir where, you know, a detective gets pulled into something with the best of intentions and hopes that it will be the thing that changes her life. But I mean, yes, it is, but not the way she wants.
Right. And then they're on the other side of the same coin, basically.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's great that the mystery structure is there, because it does give us an opportunity, like a way into the story that might not have worked otherwise. If you were just following her without a mystery, it would be, I mean, there's the mystery of who she is, obviously, but the mystery she's investigating gives us a reason to invest in the entire narrative and puts a ticking clock on it and makes it move a little faster, and puts it in a genre that I think makes it more comfortable as a watch. Because I would love to see a Jeanne Dielman-like version of Tina's Day and just watch her go through her work, but giving her something that's in opposition to her desire and what she wants, and creating an external conflict, like that's the good stuff.
That is the good stuff. That is what makes it. But that is, and that's what I was saying at the beginning, like that why it's so dark, and it's like again, it's like two sides of the same coin of like who's worse or who's better. You know, what is the moral kind of compass in this story? Like who's the good guy, who's the bad guy? You know, and it sounds like you are leaning towards like I think it's Vore, I think, or him in the end using her or wanting her to be part of the scheme. But do you think that when he meets her, he knows that do you think that it's like,
oh, is it always on his mind?
Yeah. Or do you think that, I mean, I only thought about this now. I didn't think that, but now you're making me wonder that, because then you would really put something dark on his plate to kind of, you know, gather somebody on side, like we'll use her as a mold, she's perfect for this, you know. But now maybe we're reading too much into it. I don't know.
I wonder, in a noir situation, undoubtedly, right? Like if this was a classical 40s film with trolls in it, then it would be it would be part of a plan.
So many of those happened in the 40s. No, I don't know.
There's a version of To Have and Have Not that plays beautifully with trolls in it. I don't know. I think the way he first approaches her and kind of challenges her initially, I mean, maybe that's just who he is. That does seem like his personality. As we see him, he's not someone who pulls back from people. He's sort of aggressive and confrontational from the jump. But I wonder if he's trying to lure her in, that would work, right?
Yeah, that could have been a whole other, but it's not so obvious. But if you think about him, if he wasn't like her and he was just a human who was acting that way when they first meet, you would, and she would be completely disgusted probably too. Like he, you know, reaches in close to, he's just like kind of breathing. Like you feel like it's uncomfortable. He's got this sort of smarmy vibe and swagger and stuff. And it is uncomfortable, but because they look the same. Yeah. But then what does that say about us? Like that we think, or her, that she's like, it's a really human observation. Like we just only like the things that look like us and are familiar and we feel comfortable with. And I mean, is that okay? In this story, it's like, well, it's making it okay because she has not been able to find out with anybody else. She is the outsider, you know. And then you find your clan, I guess. Like, so there's a lot of different ways to look at it, I guess, you know.
Yeah, I mean, this could be about any kind of enthusiast who discovers a like-minded person, right? It's just, I'm sure there are. Right. I know there are movies about that where people are sort of pulled in by familiarity and a sense of community, and then betrayed. Yeah. It's the one I'm thinking about, The East, not too long ago, Britt Marling's film about eco-terrorism, where radicals get together for the same purpose and then end up going too far. It's sort of the same. I mean, it's any kind of similar narrative about people needing to belong. But in this case, yeah, you're right. The way they're set apart by their physical, by their physicality, by just the way everyone else looks around them, would seem to push them together. and
Right.
gives us a reason. I don't know. I think because we spend enough time with Tina before she gets pulled into Vore's world, right? And so naturally, we're going to be skeptical or cautious on her behalf when she meets Vore, when she learns more about him and who she is as a result. I think we kind of want to root for her to be happy because she's the person we're following in the story. But at the same time, Vore is just so unpleasant. And like Tina's not. That's the important thing, right? She's a little gruff with her superior, but we also know that she's a woman who is very, very good at her job. And so, again, we assume that male superiors are going to just talk down to her and not take her seriously because that's just the world that we live in. That's every thriller. That's every mystery, right? We know she's right because we're on her side. We've seen her skills. We've seen what she does, which is amazing. Like the idea that she can taste guilt is such a unique concept. Is that part of troll lore in Scandinavia?
No, well, not the stories that I read, but no, that's an interesting thing. And I wonder, did you read the story? I haven't read the story. No, me neither. So I was wondering about that, like what additions or that were given in the film, or how close it stayed. But that wasn't one of the things. But just back to really quick what you were saying about her. Yeah, we were made to like her right away because of, I think even the first scene, we see her, she stops a kid and she's like actually quite nice to him. She's like, you don't want to be in jail, but you're underage. Don't, like, you've got booze. You're not supposed to have booze, whatever.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, you ugly, under his breath, like, ugly bitch or whatever. And so we're immediately on her side. Like, she's just been insulted. And then we see all these moments with her and insects and animals and nature. So we see that she's got this caring heart, and we see that the animals are drawn to her, like the fox, whatever. So somehow that warms us. If these beasts are her, like, they're her only friends. It's like, these are the things that come close. Doesn't touch anyone or anything unless it's like, her terrible roommate or whatever it is. But then these insects or this moose or the fox, like, this is how that's her contact. It's not with any human. It's with these, animals and nature. So, and I think and then back to what you were saying about sort of lore with trolls. I mean, it's more stories like that. They live in the woods and they can they're up to no good, some mischief. Like, they might come and steal something or like replace something or whatever. Right. But but the thing with scent and whatever, not there. The natural world is definitely there. The forest, the woods, and that's obviously where all this sort of folklore and mythology and magic comes from in the first place. What lies out there in the forest. And that was another fun choice. Like, it was so gray and all the human stuff, all, like, even the border center, it's just like nothing. And then you get this lush green moss, like barefoot stepping down, and this like beautiful dark green moss, like soft, and the water and things like that, versus the cold human world that she works in.
Yeah, fluorescent lights everywhere, and just the sense that there's no windows, that it's all just boxy and empty and devoid of life.
And no air, it felt too, because I really think the breathing and the smelling, and that's once again like testament to these actors, but all of that is somehow really strong in it.
Yeah, and I realize I mispronounced the director's name earlier. It's not Abbas, it's Abbasi. And the work to build that world visually, as well as expanding a short story into a feature, is just exhausting. I think, like, the density of everything we see. The forest scenes are gorgeous, but there's also just the sort of shabbiness of her home life and the environment that she's built for herself, which we get the feeling is purely functional. Like, she doesn't seem to take a great deal of pleasure in her living situation. She's certainly not taking pleasure in her roommate, no matter what else is going on. Like, it's just unpleasant.
No. Yeah, and he just sort of lives there. Like, it's not her space. He's there with the dogs are all over the place. His dog. It's just like she doesn't have anything that's of her own, even though it is her own. Yeah. But yeah, that was that's pretty clear, like and well done in production as far as that's like their apartment and the barking dogs, and then she throws his TV out at the end. Like, anyway, yeah,
but so it's that world that she wants to flee, right? That also sets her up to be attracted to Vore, to see what might happen in a situation where someone genuinely understands her.
Yeah.
So again, sympathetic, empathetic. You just want her, you want Tina to be happy. She's the hero of the movie. You don't want to see it all go badly.
No. It's kind of a hard film to talk about, we've said this before, but also because of these other, whether it's because you think you almost can't help but think of it in terms of like, especially nowadays, like, race and gender and all these huge sort of topics that I actually don't even almost want to, like, the film is of its own, but it is when you start like trying to unravel it a bit, then I feel you get a little bit stuck on questions like this that are on everybody's mind these days, or that we're like super aware and hyper kind of vigilant about now. So I wonder, it'd be interesting to hear like a panel of real pros. I mean, you're the real pro. I'm talking about myself. I mean, talking about this as far as like a, almost like a social kind of commentary.
Yeah.
And I don't think that the filmmaker set out to do that. He's Iranian, but he's a Swede.
But that is going to be a different experience of growing up in Sweden, right? Like, if you're an Iranian emigre, seeing people respond to you differently. I mean, I don't know how racist it is in Sweden, but I mean, I know certainly in the UK it's horrible, and France has not been great with.
There's racism everywhere. I mean, of course, it exists in Sweden too. I mean, it's and immigration is a big topic there as well. Sweden has like traditionally welcomed many immigrants, and also from Syria a few years ago, and from all over the world. And there's and I think especially now, and it's going to be more and more as things start moving with climate and other things. There's going to be all kinds of migrations, but Sweden has long had this sort of policy of kind of more open door, but also training for. I mean, I see training, education, I guess, to kind of for any newcomer to kind of learn about the culture that they're going to be joining, and things like that. So
integration.
Yeah, integration is the word. Yes. So to go to take some classes about this and what the Swedes believe, how they conduct their day-to-day, this kind of thing. So people can be more comfortable coming into this entirely new world. So I think the Swedes are definitely tolerant, but of course there's racism. And I think in the South now, in Malmö and across from Copenhagen, there's a lot, there's things that are moving and changing, and so for sure. And generally now it's changing. It's not everybody is blonde and blue eyes. It was never like that, by the way. But, it's just like that on the postcards. But so of course things are changing, and I guess of course the director, as you say, would be looked at. I don't know if he was born in Sweden or when he moved or anything like that. But the
IMDb says that he was born in Tehran, but it doesn't say when he arrived.
Well, yeah. So I'm sure he must have been thinking about that as well. You can't help it.
Yeah, it feels like it's about everything and nothing, right? Because it's so specific about its own world, and the fantastical aspect of it just sort of removes any metaphor, but it's all there. I mean, you're dealing with border crossings and a closed society on that level, and you're dealing with someone who is outside of it, but within it. And she's almost, I mean, you can see why Vori wants to enlist her, because she's basically a double agent
Yeah.
once she knows who she is or what
Yeah.
she is.
And what do you think about the whole like gender discussion, or do we even want to open that box up? I almost don't, like, I don't know how to even,
Well, yeah,
giving away, I mean, it's a big topic,
at this point,
though.
it's been out for 3 years. I assume people will be listening to this. Listeners, if you haven't watched Border, put this on pause and go watch Border. Then we can talk about what we're about to talk about.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it is, I mean, does it function as a trans analogy? Does it function as a gender fluidity? I don't know that. I think that's ultimately the same element comes up in Let the Right One In, where, Ellie isn't a girl and says so.
Yes. And she says straight up, yeah, I'm not a girl. I'm not a girl. Would you still like me if I wasn't a girl? She says, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's about, yeah. So this is what I meant. It would be great to hear, like, experts talk about that. I mean, of these specific, people, but because it's hard to comment when you don't know. But I think then we can say at least it is about, in the most basic sense, which is something that everybody has felt one way or other, and that is the sort of other, or, not belonging or feeling uncomfortable in your own skin.
Yeah.
And not, and that's part of being human. That's part of growing up. I mean, I don't know anybody, maybe I'm wrong, but, growing up, that nobody had any insecurities, or nobody knew how to, we all have to learn how to walk. We have to crawl first, and then we learn how to walk, and then we fall down, we get up again. I mean, this is just some basic kind of how we grow. So, but in that scene, like, she really doesn't, suddenly she's something complete. Her own body has kept secrets from her.
Yeah.
Like, that's how do you deal with that? I mean, I guess, yeah, I don't know. Well, what do you think about that?
I wish I'd seen it with an audience, because I would have loved to feel that shock that ripples through the room when we discover that there's so much going on, that there's so much stuff that Tina didn't even understand. And I suppose it's a metaphor for a non-binary experience, where you suddenly discover that you're not what anyone thinks you are, let alone yourself. Yeah. But the way the film just powers through it, it was this triumphant moment, right? Because Tina ultimately does get to be fulfilled as whatever she is, and to have, like, whatever identity she wants, because this is happening and it isn't stopping, and she's into it. So yeah.
It's a cocoon to butterfly, I guess.
Yes, it's a chrysalis metaphor. That's it. Exactly.
That's what it must be, because that's when you don't even know. And then, she gets to spread these wings that she didn't even know she had, kind of. I mean, it should be that. And then she becomes this, it is like a transformation. It is like from one sense of being one body to another. So I guess that's the closest I can come to figuring that out. I think,
yeah. I suppose it's whatever you want it to be. If you're a person watching it in a theater or at home and taking away some kind of supportive message, it doesn't really matter what the message is if it works for you. But it is just so completely, well, I mean, it's not unprecedented, but it is so shocking in the moment to see that this is happening, that the film is taking it seriously and going for it.
Yes. And going for, and like, it's really like, it's sort of brave to do that. And I like what you said, triumphant. I mean, it is that. It's like it is that kind of a moment of victory, triumph. But it is, again, astonishing, or like almost a miracle that they do take it so serious. And you have to, it's like the serious moment, but I can't imagine the conversations around how they're going to do it, how they're going to shoot, or how they're going to, go for it. Like, and you have to just completely commit 1,000% if you're going to do that, and do it and take it seriously and go all the way. Otherwise, you can lose a lot. Yeah, very easily.
Yeah. I mean, even the blocking alone is something that you have to figure out down to the millimeter where you're going to put the camera and how you're going to frame the effect and all the other things. And, people who are listening to this without having watched Border, I think you're sorry now, but go watch Border.
Yes. Surprise.
But yeah.
Out of that. Yeah.
I mean, it's not the kind of thing you can use an intimacy coordinator for, because there's never been something like this. I mean, I suppose you can, because it's acting and there's going to be negotiation of the physical body and all, but it is something that is, when it happens, it is just gobsmacking in its confidence. Like, they make it work, not for a second. You mentioned some people giggled, and I get that, because people are uncomfortable with some experiences, especially if they didn't know this was going to happen going in, and who the hell would?
Nobody knew. But
it was just it was just that great moment of, oh, they're doing okay. And it works. Like, it actually works in the moment. Yeah.
You buy it. And that's a huge credit. It has to go to everybody who made this film.
Yeah. I mean, Eva Melander is selling it, right? Like, from under the prosthetics, from under all the assumptions that we've been carrying about this character for 55 minutes. It's the halfway point of the film. And it works. And it's almost, it's triumphant, but it's also fun to sort of see the movie like going that way and just refusing to cut around it or fade to black or turn, like, there's no tilt to a fireplace or anything. Like, we're watching this happen because the mechanics of it are as fascinating to Tina as they are to us.
I think that your word of saying triumphant also, I mean, it's true. And you're saying it's kind of fun. And earlier you said there's like sort of fun, or maybe you said funny moments as well, but you're right. It's joyful. Mm-hmm. You're just like, oh yeah, like, go for it. It's a joyful kind of moment. It's joyful to watch somebody come into their own, I suppose.
Yeah. It's Neo at the end of the Matrix figuring out bullet time. Like,
exactly.
It's a weird analogy, but it is that sort of thing where you're watching something truly fantastical. And it's not like, in this case, it's not the climax of the film. It's just her personal turning point.
Yes.
And
I can't believe you can say that without then like saying something else. You're using the word climax.
I know.
Well, that's but no, you're absolutely right. And it is that turning point. It's something. It is like it's cool. It's a magical movie about magic, I suppose,
Yeah. And things that we don't know we can do, which is, again, a universal metaphor, right? Even if it's just standing up to someone who wants you to do what they want. Yeah. Which is ultimately the real triumph of the film is that she chooses her own moral code. Like, she chooses her own values, which are neither human nor troll. Like, she gets to be herself, which I think is like, that's the chosen one narrative, right? But it's hidden in this story where I made the film noir analogy earlier, and the detective is the one who's isolated and alone because they're the ones who have their own moral code that never breaks. And every film noir story is either about losing everything because you won't break your code, or breaking your code and losing everything. There are no happy endings. And Border carves one out. It actually finds a way for Tina to do the right thing for her so she can live with herself. Like, she obeys her own moral code, follows her own conscience, and gets to be the hero of her story, even though no one else will ever know it.
Yeah, I think that's very strong. She gets to own, her own identity. I mean, finally, yeah. Mm-hmm. And she can reject him and do all these things based on, as you say, her own values, which are now entirely her own and not, what other people have told her or suggested she should think, do, feel, or who she should be. But do you think that the ending is sort of like this, also an open kind of, it's like, it's also, we know that it's the beginning for her. Yeah. It's like the ending is like, it's the beginning of her story. It's now that she has finally taken this journey and come to this sort of the chrysalis analogy. She's now, knows who she is. And so now it really is like the ending is the beginning for her. And we don't know, is she going to go meet him? What's she going to do? And all these things. So
Yeah. Where do you see her going? What do you think happens next?
I think she does go.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I don't know. I think she wants to, but I don't know if she does it. Ultimately, that means giving up so much of who she is now, right? If she abandons the human world and goes off to find her people.
But what does she do with the baby?
Wait, I mean, just generally speaking. Sorry, now my
Well,
brain
I mean,
is my brain is protecting the ending. I don't want to say.
Oh yeah, sorry. Oh shoot.
No,
sorry.
It's fine. It's fine. At this point, we've already acknowledged that people are going to have to know the movie to tell the story. I don't know. There's
so. But does she bring it? Does she keep it just on her own? Does she stay in that place? Like, I don't think she's going to. That's the thing. Maybe she doesn't go, but I don't think she's going to stay and be a border guard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think she's now like in a different zone. So
yeah, I want to continue the noir narrative and have her set up an agency because she's good at that. Like she could easily be a real active detective or something, and raise the kid. I think there's a weird story where she gets to be a single parent and walk in both worlds and maybe live in a farm somewhere where the animals just come up to her. I want her to be happy. Like I have a rooted interest in her getting everything she wants, whatever that is. Maybe
she'll go and arrest him. or stop him from doing this whole thing. And then that's the whole other in the best of both worlds. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I assume she'll use her contacts to tip off somebody because she, as a border guard, I don't know that she really has any authority beyond.
No, I know, but not arrest him, but you know what I mean? Go.
But stop him. You want her to continue making things right for people. Or at least I do.
Right. She's the hero. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She's the hero of her own story and also a troll.
Yes. He just so happens to be a troll. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It doesn't define. I mean, it kind of does define her, but it doesn't have to. But that's what the whole movie is about.
Yeah.
You can be a troll and a good a productive member of society.
What a story. Yeah.
I would love to talk to Abbasi about this and find out how it happened. I didn't get the chance when he was here at TIFF. I would have. That's a conversation I would love to have. Just how much of it is
on that wall.
Yeah. So this is the complicated part because usually I try to connect the movie back to the guest's own work, and I don't see a lot in bestsellers that lines up.
No, it's so different. I think maybe that's also why I chose. I don't know why. It's like a completely different thing. But I will say, of course, this film is very different from bestsellers, but parts of it are close to sort of some of the short films that I've done. So at least there is. And as I said earlier, at least the Swedish connection, the sort of folklore idea, this stuff, for sure. But yes, this film is nothing like bestsellers. Not really. I mean, it's about people finding themselves, I guess. But sure. There are, spoiler alert, there are no trolls in my film. So yeah.
See, I would have held that back. I wouldn't have said anything about that.
Okay. Oh no, nobody's gonna watch it. No. It's a different animal.
Yeah, but it is within a recognizable genre, and it still plays some tricks in there. I think it's fair to say, right? It's similarly loose with our expectations, or plays fast and loose with them anyway. See, I don't want to give anything away about your movie either.
Yeah, tell me more.
This is very frustrating. I kind of want to know, because I've never had the chance to really talk to anybody about this. What is it like to work with Michael Caine now? I interviewed him 10 years ago when Dark Knight Rises came out, and all I wanted to talk to him about was The Muppet Christmas Carol. Because it's the greatest performance. It is marvelous. A classic.
That's one of his faves too. Yeah.
He said that. Yeah. And it was his favorite because it was his grandkids' favorite or something like that. And
that's right. He wanted to do something for his grandkids. I mean, they're older now and stuff, but yeah. No, look, working. I mean, the answer is I don't know, because I was never fortunate enough to work with him. I don't know. This is my first time. Mm. And but gosh, what a total joy, obviously. And he's just a generous, authentic, real human being. He's just a wonderful guy. So that in itself is worth a lot. It goes really far. And to watch him was a joy. I learned a lot. he's obviously exceptionally talented. He's very experienced. And yet at the same time, he just wants to do a good job. So after every take, he just look at me like, "Is that all right, love? Was that all right? What would we do?" And then so we would discuss and move and change things. And he knows how to use the smallest detail, whether it's like, raised eyebrow. He knows how to control his voice, his beautiful, rich voice that he can just sort of manipulate and use to just, make you weep or laugh. He knows what he's doing. And at the same time, he's generous and connected enough that that what he's going through is also not an act all the time. And I think in this film, I don't want to speak out of turn, but there are some personal things in this film, and I think at this time in his life as well, some of those things rang really true, and so to be with him for that and to watch it and to work with him was, it's a dream. Yeah. I still don't even believe that it happened. It's still sort of like, oh, did we do that? Did we make that film? It happened.
Yeah. This is what I was sort of tying it to Border, because he is like legendary at this point. He is his own folklore. He has to see him in a movie is to interact with decades of his history and his iconography that has been built up around him, so that, just as we don't really know what trolls are in Border until we see how they live and breathe, he is this fascinating entity who you desperately want to be as like, for me, as a viewer, as a critic, as a fan, I desperately need him to be the person I think he is, and the expectation of that. And when I got to talk to him, it was really reassuring, right? To hear that, just the sort of kindness and the gentleness in his voice, that I don't think he is an innocent or naive, but it's a choice that he makes, right? To the way he interacts with people now, to just be a human being instead of a movie star.
Oh yeah, he can. He can do. He's constantly being bombarded. Now he's used to it. He's done it a million times. But about his personality, I will say something, and I thought it was such a really beautiful compliment. But his wife Shakira, just as far as who he is as a person, she told me that his performance in this film was closest to him than anything else she's ever seen. All of his all the warmth, all the the sort of like curmudgeonly irascibility, all the stuff, the good, the bad, it's all in there, and it's also, it's charming. He's just lovable. And though, as you said, we all have these expectations. My God, I was terrified the first day on set, but because he is authentic, because he's really generous, and because most importantly, he cares, this is the real, that's the secret. His secret is that he cares deeply about his work and about, the people around him and about doing it right. It's not a job, some of them are a job. He always tells the story about whatever he's doing. He needs to, the reason he did Jaws 4, right, to get a house, or, he tells the same things, but some things, especially at this time in his life, he's almost 90 years old. He has to do it because he wants to, because he cares, and because he loves to do it. And that is just what a gift for me and for the crew and all the other actors and everybody who did. That's such a blessing to that's a gift from him, that he gives, and that I think hopefully he'll give to the world through his work and through his role in this film. I'm really proud of his work. I'm really proud of Aubrey's work. And I can't wait for people to see what they do.
Oh yeah. I don't want to leave Aubrey Plaza out of it either. She's amazing.
No.
She's just this remarkable young actor, but the idea that Yeah, I'm fascinated by the not the conflict or the expectation. I'm always fascinated by directors working with legitimate legends and figuring out how to use them and see past the legend, which I think Bestsellers does really well.
Oh, thanks. I think too, of course, it's as I said, it was like really nerve-wracking. Well, who am I to tell this legend, what to do? And of course, like, I didn't tell him what to do. I suggested what he should. No, I mean, we have a relationship. We could talk. Like he was, as I said, he was generous and open enough to want to know more, to go deeper, to kind of, if a line wasn't working, I'll give him something else, like whatever,
Yeah.
And he's just lovely. And gosh, he's so good, isn't he?
My thanks to Lina Roessler, whose first feature, Bestsellers, is in theaters and on VOD in Canada this Friday, September 17th. It's good. You should watch it. Thanks also to Bonnie Smith. She knows what she did. Lina's not on Twitter, but you can track Bestsellers release via the Mongrel Media account, which is all one word, and you can find Border on Blu-ray and DVD from Universal Studios. It's also streaming on Shudder and Mubi in Canada and Hulu and Canopy in the US, and you can rent or buy it on most VOD platforms. As always, you can find me on Twitter at Norm Wilner and elsewhere on the internet at nowtoronto.com, where I'm hosting a bunch of podcasts these days, while also being punchy as hell from writing the daily TIFF dispatches. You can find this podcast on Twitter at Semcast, SEMcast, and on the web at someoneelsesmovie.com. Our theme song is by The Last Year. If you like it, or the show in general, please say so. Leave a review wherever you've been enjoying us. Every little bit helps. It truly does. And check out the other shows on the Frequency Podcast Network while you're there. Watch movies, stay safe. Wear a mask if you go out, get your shot if you can. I'll see you next time.